I am so excited. I am taking a break. I'm taking a pause because I have been working on putting the finishing touches on tomorrow's workshop, Permission to Pause: How to Design Your Pretirement. My name is Amy Palmer. I am your Gen X big sister, and I wanted to share a little bit about tomorrow and what is happening with our time together, with our live event coming up. I wanted to remind you and myself of my why. Why am I doing this? What made me do this? And I want to keep a really long story short. So this is the abridged version. So long story short, 4 years ago, I left my corporate executive role because I was at an all-time low in my life, in all areas of my life. I was borderline depressed. I was burnt out. I was overwhelmed. I felt hopeless. I was grieving the fact that I didn't have the life that I thought that I would have. And I couldn't look ahead and see anything exciting on the horizon. I was starting to feel like I was entering old age, and nothing about that season appealed to me because my life didn't look like the way that I had thought that it would, approaching elder years. So I was at a low, very long story short. I was at a low, and that went on for an extended period of time. And it was exacerbated by the pandemic and menopause. Absolutely. There was still something inside me somewhere. There was some nugget that knew there was a better option. There was a better alternative. I knew that there was a way past this, and I made the decision to do what I needed to do. I was just in survival mode at that time. So what I knew that I needed to do was to rest and to heal. So I put together a plan. It took me a long time to put it together, but I put together a plan to take some time out and some time off. So when I left my job without having another job lined up. I didn't have a plan other than the fact that I had planned for a 3-month sabbatical. I gave myself permission to go 3 months without having any pressure of generating any income or revenue or anything during that time. And I could just focus on healing. And I did, and I get into the details of how in other videos. But at the end of the 3 months, there were a few things there was a lot that I still wasn't completely clear about, but I felt I was much healthier. I was in a better place. I was a higher version of myself. I was vibrationally operating on a much better level. And some of the things I was clear about was like, I knew I wanted to continue with the freedom and the location freedom and the time freedom that I had been experiencing during my sabbatical. And I also wanted to know that I was determined to help other women like myself who might approach a challenging season like I had had. And the reason why I felt a need for that for me is I felt when I was going through all these struggles, part of what was really contributing to this was the fact that I was on a different life path. I was following a different blueprint. I did not follow the blueprint that I had been given. I did not find a partner, get married, have kids, just have, build your family, build your home, settle down. I didn't do any of that. I wanted to very badly. And again, I've talked about that in other videos too. But when I was out seeking support and looking for answers, I struggled to find other single women, childless, not necessarily by choice, over the age of 45 or 50. I struggled to find them. And the advice that I was finding and the recommendations that I was finding didn't fit me because it didn't fit the life that I was at. I wasn't struggling with empty nest syndrome. I know that that's a common challenge of women in our demographic. That was not my challenge. My challenge, my grief, my struggles was in a completely different category. And so I was determined to be that support. And so the thing that I was clear about was I was going to launch a podcast. I was going to talk to experts. I was going to explore these subjects that I didn't feel enough people were talking about. And that's what I did. And my podcast, Blueprint Breakers, has been around for over almost 3 years, 3.5 years now. Very successful, very amazing guest speakers that I have on my podcast. And we've explored so many important topics. And through my journey, I am happier. I am more content. I am excited about the future. I've created a life. I've designed a life for myself that I never would have imagined 5, 10, 15 years ago, and never even thought that it was possible, and feeling in a really, really great place. And recently, in recent months, I've started sharing a little bit about my journey. I started it on Threads and got a huge response from other women our age, Gen X women. And I found that there's a lot of shared experience. There's a lot of shared struggle, even though we walk a lot of different paths. So I found out that it wasn't just the blueprint breakers who were having struggles that weren't necessarily being addressed or talked about. It wasn't just us. It was the vast majority of women, like in this age bracket at this particular time, not just this time in our lives, but this time in our societal history coming together. That there's just a lot of challenge and struggle going on. So I started the conversation on Threads, was a little surprised when I went like mini viral several different times, and started our monthly Gen X virtual coffee chats, which have been amazing, by the way. Sign up for those if you haven't yet. So we had these virtual monthly chats. And then during that time, I launched my YouTube channel. And that is when things really took off. When I started to talk about designing a life right now and calling it pretirement, those 10 to 15 years before retirement, and naming the struggles that I had been having and talking about the life that I was trying to live and my new view and perspective on retirement, that really took off. And that went viral. And many of you have subscribed to this channel as a result of one of those videos. And I've heard from many of you, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments. I've replied to, I hope, practically every single one. And I got to hear a lot of women's amazing stories of perseverance and getting through some tough times and trauma and extra responsibility and all the things. I mean, there's so many stories out there and experiences out there that we all can relate to. The heaviness of the responsibility, the weight of what's been on our shoulders and on our plates. I could relate to that. And then I also noticed there was a lot of women who were still in the thick of it. And they were very relieved that we were starting to have this conversation. And a lot of times it seemed like they stumbled across my video at the perfect time, just as they were ruminating and having really challenging thoughts and feelings about everything that they're going through right now. And I think it helped for them to hear somebody else put it into words. And I began to see that the women in my comment threads, the women on this channel, the subscribers to this channel, they want to and need to connect with each other. There's definitely a desire to connect with other like-minded women and to navigate these new waters together. We are our generation. I feel like as we approach these pre-retirement years, heading down the road into retirement. I feel like we are the first generation who are heading into it with vastly different circumstances, vastly different needs. And we're really powerful. And we're really powerful, especially together. So that's what made me decide to pull this live event together. And I also was hearing from so many women who are so beyond exhausted, so done. They don't take time for themselves. So I wanted to create something. And this is sort of my first attempt at this. Now I'm pulling together frameworks and things that I have taught previously, things I have used in previous group coaching scenarios in the last couple of years. But first time putting it together in quite this way. And we'll see where it goes and where it takes us. But my intent is to devote 90 minutes so that you can think about you and time for you to reflect on you and your needs. What do you, if you're in a bad place, what do you need to heal? What do you need to be able to take a rest? What do you need to happen in order for you to design the kind of pretirement that you deserve? You deserve to have joy in your life right now. So like I said, I'm putting the finishing touches on it as we speak. I'm really thrilled with the group of women so far that are coming together. We're keeping it intentionally small. It's been like the word of mouth thing that's like slowly catching on. And I think that that's a great thing, keeping it intimate and personal for tomorrow. So this is for Gen X women who want to do their life a little bit differently than they have been doing. They don't want to keep going on autopilot. They don't want to keep suffering. They don't want to stay exhausted. They don't want to stay in the place where they're at now. It's not therapy. I mean, it's a great addition to therapy. I've been through therapy multiple times, but this is not therapy. This is more, you've made the decision. Now let's take some time to really focus on you and really figure out what's the best thing to do next. If you are finding yourself you've clicked on the link a couple times, you've read through the enrollment page about the event, but you haven't quite signed up yet, this is your gentle nudge to come and join us. I say that just as my light goes out. Whoa! So there's a sign to come and join us tomorrow. I will put the link in the notes for you to get the details. I want to let you know that it's going to be a safe space. It's going to be very private. If you don't want to have cameras on, I prefer cameras on because it helps us to connect with each other. But if that's not where you're at, and if that's not what you can do, then that is fine. I want to meet you where you're at, and I want this to be a comfortable space for you. And you can interact and engage as much or as little as you want to. Obviously, the more you put into an experience like this, the more you get from it. But if your introverted self just needs to silently go along and do this with us without verbally talking, maybe you can put some things in the chat. However you want to operate is going to be fine and beautiful. This just might be your call to show up and to devote this time to yourself. The enrollment details can be found at permission2pause.today. Permission, the number 2, pause.today. If this is not the right time for you, if this is not your thing, if this is not what you want to do, I want to make a recommendation, a suggestion, a challenge, an ask. Sometime this weekend, I want you to find at least 30 minutes in your weekend that's just for you. That's all about you. And during that 30 minutes, you're going to just get quiet, get silent. You're not going to be on screens. You're not going to play a podcast or you can play music because that will help. But just to relax as much as you possibly can. And I want you to get out a piece of paper or a journal. If you have a journal, get out something to write on and write the question on there. What do I want this next season of my life to look like? What do I want this next season of my life to look like? Write it on a piece of paper and then wait for answers to start to come to you. And they will start to, whether it's like your instinct, your intuition, your higher power, God, goddess, whatever you believe, thoughts will start to come to you. If you can clear your mind and get still and be quiet, you'll start to get some responses and get some direction. And then come back here to this video and let me know about it. I want to hear what happened and what you came up with and that sort of thing. So even if you're not joining us tomorrow, you have your assignment. And for those of you who are joining me tomorrow, I am so excited to meet you. There will be a replay so that you can revisit the things that we explore tomorrow. And my name is Amy Palmer. I am your Gen X big sister, signing out.